Well, good morning, everybody. How are you today? Thank you all for being here. And you can say you're doing fine. I drove on ice, and I've decided that I have to ingratiate myself with all my local friends and spend the night before a big event just like this. So thank you for being here. Enjoy this wonderful breakfast. We all would like to take a moment, and I know we usually have great presentations from our sponsors, but today they have asked me to thank you personally. So everyone, a big round of applause for Corewell Health, who is putting on today's event. Thank you very much. We deeply appreciate it. I had to make sure I wasn't going to step on anybody's toes who was expecting to have, radio time. The other is Comcast, and Comcast, if you can wave you have a seat, you have a whole table. There's a sign. Comcast put on our lovely breakfast today, so a round of applause for them. And then KLA Labs is our video presentation. They helped us out today, so thank you all. We couldn't make this happen without you. Thank you very, very much. If you can imagine, I'll give everyone a brief synopsis because the tale of our cities has been going on since the 1990s. I'm very, very lucky. I walked into an institution where we're the stewards of our institution. You're all the stewards of our city. Next year is the Chamber's 80th anniversary, and I would love to tell you I'll be here for the 160th, but I would probably be extremely old. So it's the carrying on, it's the stewardship, it's the fiduciary responsibility, and I stand on the shoulders of the people who are here. So I'd like to thank just a few people who are with us, both of our mayors, and I do alphabetical order by Dearborn, Dearborn Heights, and then by their last names too. So a big round of applause for Abdullah H. Hammoud and Bill Bazzi, our mayors. Our elected officials, who I've received notice that you are here. Councilman Dave Abdullah of Dearborn Heights, thank you. And in no particular order, Gary Enos, and we can applaud at the end. Gary Enos of Dearborn, Councilman Bob Abraham. Kamal Al-Sawafi couldn't be with us, but he did send representation. We also have Leslie Herrick, Councilwoman Pro Tem, Mustafa Hammoud, Ken Paris, and of course our Council President, Mike Serini. Thanks for being here, everybody. We have two table sponsors with us today, and we love that you come as well. Henry Ford College, thank you for joining us, and the foundation, and bringing a host of dignitaries with you. Thank you very much. And we can applaud them. And Semka, as usual. I know Tamara is not with us today, but I know she also has her team with us. And please tell me everyone is at least sitting near their sign. Thanks. Your sign moved. You were over here. Okay. I'm glad you found a seat. That's great. The other thing we do is the Chamber Board. As I said, we're coming up on 80 years, and our directory is coming out this month for 2023. Our chairman of the board, Hassan Bazzi of Forward Cities. Our past chair, Brent Mikulski of STEP. And I know this person's going to think I forgot him. Our immediate past chair, Phil Emma of PSN Technologies. Adam Sterling of Allegria Village is a past chair. Rick Bixman of Tire Discount House. Dan Fayed of Fairlane Town Center. Mary O'Brien of KLA Labs. Maureen Winfrey of ServPro. John Zadikian of John Zadikian Multimedia. Tim Schramm of Hal Peterson. Who was also last year's Business of the Year. Chamber Choice is coming up. Nominations will be out soon. And Pam Meek of Dearborn Federal Savings Bank. So I do what I do on a good day of a staff of 4. We've been running with a staff of 2. We just added Christian Carlson to our team. And everyone, PJ, give a wave. Sorry, I caught you mid-bite. It's the waitress in me. Thank you both for just carrying the torch the last couple of weeks. We deeply appreciate it. And then our past board members who continue to come and take such great part in what we do. And if I've missed you, please forgive me. And I'm looking around. Okay, I think I have everyone. Peter Regis, Steve Henry, Jim Thorpe, Eddie Ficori, Margaret Bloom, Marty Hager of Dearborn Federal Savings Bank, and Mike Kirk, who is just barely enjoying retirement from Newman Smith Architecture. Thank you all. Really, you've been just such a help. I'm looking at all my tables. Okay, I think I have everybody. At this point, being we have, oh, the screens are in front of me this time. Being we have a lack of any video presentation or anything, and I know time is of the essence, I'd like to invite Mayor Hammoud to the podium first to talk a little bit about what's gone on in 2022, what can we look forward to in 2023, and I know you can turn a phrase, and your brevity is the soul of wit. And then we'll have Mayor Bazey join us up here, and he will do the same for Dearborn Heights. And then we'll have our entertaining Q&A, and we'll be walking the audience. So thank you all. If you still have breakfast, if you want to grab a little things, but help me welcome Abdullah H. Hammoud, Dearborn's mayor.
Good morning. I was joking that I can't get all of my council members to attend one of our meetings, but they're all present today. And so I guess maybe it's the free breakfast. We'll start to incorporate that throughout our meetings, Council President, at your suggestion. It's great to be with you all again this year for the second time. And I think I have just a little bit more to say than I had last year, given last year you caught me at like 1 month in and I just figured out where the bathroom was on the second floor of the administrative center. This year we actually have some great accomplishments and can speak to some of the challenges that we're still facing that are ahead of us. 22 was a transformative year, not only for the city of Dearborn, but for myself included. You know, I assumed office January 1st at the same time that I became a new father. I was 30 days into fatherhood, and if you think being mayor is scary, entering fatherhood was even scarier. Because I can mess up as mayor. You can't really mess up as a father. You can't. There's no take backs. What you put into your child really feeds into how they grow for the rest of their lives. The city has much to celebrate. Most recently, and I think the thing that I hear amongst most of you all is, homecoming is coming back to Ford Field. I feel like put everything aside, that's the number one thing people want to talk. You can clap. I see you. You can clap for that. People are extremely excited to have that come back home, and what I try to remind people is, we moved it because of the fear of the high water levels of the Rouge River. We've done some work, those water levels have come down, and this spring we actually commence a cleanup. We have 49 log jams throughout the Rouge River in the city of Dearborn, and so this spring we actually will commence the cleanup of hopefully all 49 of those log jams, which will help prevent flooding not only in Ford Field but also into our Dearborn Hills Golf Course, which will also open back up this year. And so we're super excited for that work ahead. But just speaking about flooding, and I promise to be to demonstrate brevity, Jackie. Flooding is the number one issue for the city. Make no mistake about it. However, the work to mitigate flooding doesn't happen overnight. So what have we done? The first thing we did is we put out a study with support of council to evaluate our water and sewer infrastructure for the next 2 years. We'll have the results of that study back in 2024, and it'll help us map out what work we need to do to ensure that flooding does not occur into the basements of our residents or throughout our city ever again. So we look forward to that study. The first phase is already in effect, and we'll be hosting town halls throughout the process to update the residents and to hear their concerns about what other matters are important to them. Secondly, as a part of this study, we're also looking at the full greening of the city of Dearborn. That means what green infrastructure practices can we begin to implement now? We don't have to wait for the study to complete, but we can start looking at permeable surfaces. We can start looking at increasing the usage of bioswales or retention and detention basins, rain gardens, things of that nature all throughout the city to ensure that we do what we can now to increase the capacity within our own system. Secondly, we actually received $26 million in CDBG disaster relief from the federal government, and we're in the process now on finalizing that plan that will assist in trying to also retain more water. We're looking at blocks long rain gardens, similar to what we've seen in other municipalities across the state and across the country. We're looking at building capacity. Some of our very large sewers underground in which all of us can stand tall in. Some of them are like 6 feet deep in sediment. And so if we're able to eliminate that sediment out of these large sewers, what you then create is 6 feet worth more of capacity for tens of thousands of gallons of water. I know flooding is not like the sexiest topic to talk about, but it's the most important for our city. So I'm excited to get this sediment out of these pipes. We have had great success on the public health perspective of the city of Dearborn. We believe in a philosophy called health in all policy. What that means is our public health department is not where you come to get your vaccine or to come to get your medical checkup. Our public health department is one that ensures that every decision we make as a city is seen through a public health lens and public health perspective. And so flooding is a public health issue. When we talk about economic development and the zoning of our city, zoning is a public health tool. There's a reason why the residents in the south end of the city have the highest asthma rates. It's the most industrialized part of our city. And so what we've done with our public health department is we've begun to purchase industrialized parcels of land to begin the deindustrialization of certain parts of our city to help improve the asthma rates and the air quality in the region, knowing that one of the biggest polluters in our city, which is mobile truck traffic pollution, is actually not regulated to any means. And with the upcoming Gordie Howe Bridge, we expect that truck traffic to really begin to increase. And so we want to do what we can to build a green barrier for our residents between some of the main thoroughfares and where they live. We had our first Narcan vending machine that we placed. What we did was we took a map of all the opioid overdoses across the city of Dearborn. And what we found was they actually occurred in some of the hotels and motels along the Michigan Avenue Strip. And we found a central location, the Amtrak train station. And we put a vending machine there for free Narcan units. Narcan is a life-saving drug. It doesn't help prevent overdoses, but ensures that no life is carelessly lost because of an overdose. And to date, in just a few months, over 800 units of Narcan have been dispensed. And we continue to fill that machine back up. And it was at no cost to the city. We received a grant from the State Department for Narcan and a vending machine generously donated by one of our local mosques. And so it's been a very robust intervention. Most recently, our public health department, and I'm stealing some of their thunder, we received a grant to begin to test our sewage across the city. Well, we will be able to track flu levels, RSV levels, COVID levels, and help determine if there are certain neighborhoods that are seeing increased spikes in illness. That'll help us from a public health perspective to begin to communicate to certain neighborhoods, hey, if you're living in Dearborn Hills, for example, we see high levels of COVID in the water, in the sewage that's being left out there. And that helps then tailor interventions for you to coordinate public health responses, working with the Wayne County Public Health Department or the State Department of Health and Human Services. So a lot of innovation, a lot of exciting news is coming out of our public health department. And I think what I'll conclude on is economic development. We put our bulldog hats on. No longer is the city of Dearborn kind of standing on the sideline just kind of waiting for development to come to us. We're being proactive. Over the last 2 years, we've seen Ford Land sell many parcels of land throughout the city of Dearborn, over 150 acres, in fact. And fortunately for us, a lot of that land has fell into the hands of Dearborn residents who are locals who want to develop this land responsibly. And so we're working with them to ensure that we bring responsible development, but development that everybody wants to see. We know that we have a shortage on housing. And so we're looking at acres of housing coming to the city of Dearborn soon, and so we're excited for that. Some of this takes time. We're excited to bring in new businesses, and Dearborn, we are the home of Ford Motor Company, which we are so extremely proud of, but we're also the home to small business entrepreneurship like you've never seen. There's a proliferation of entrepreneurs across our city. Drive down any one of our business districts, whether it's Michigan Avenue, East, West, Warren Schaefer, Dix Verner Business District. Entrepreneurs are everywhere you go. And it's because we're also the capital of immigration. We are the first stop for many immigrants. We are the destination for many immigrants. If you think about the Afghani refugees that were resettled in the state of Michigan, who were put up in some of the hotels and the surrounding areas of the city of Dearborn, most of them are being asked to be permanently settled in the city of Dearborn because Dearborn is known as the destination for immigrants because we're a welcoming place that has a beautifully diverse community. And it's one where you can come and you can grow. Residents who grew up, living the American dream or working towards the American dream, they might leave for a short period of time, but then they come back and they love to settle here. They like to bring their headquarters here. And one of the perfect examples is Dina Ali, the founder of OSP, who raised in the south end of Dearborn, gained his success, built a multi-state company, And rather than taking that success elsewhere, move that headquarters back to the beautiful Moore's Head building on the corner of Michigan and Military. I'm just making sure I'm right. Michigan and Military. But that's the type of success that we like to see. It's Dearborn homegrown, and Dearborn is that place that bets on Dearborn. I think that's what ultimately leads to our success. So with that, I will conclude because I see Jackie looking at me kind of be like, okay, Bill Bazzi has to come up. And so thank you all so much for being here. I look forward to the Q&A because there's much more to talk about. Thank you.
So everyone, get your second cup of coffee because I know Mayor Bazzi has probably a half hour to speak. Thank you for rushing. No, I'm kidding. So please help me welcome Mayor Bazzi of Dearborn Heights.
Good morning. I promise you next year I'll tell Jackie we're doing lunch, we're not doing breakfast. Because I've heard a lot of, I talked to the resident, my residents or the people here. I think we can do a survey and everybody concurs. It has to be lunch, Jackie. But first, I want to thank Jackie for hosting this event. And I want to thank everybody for being here this morning and also all the sponsors. We really appreciate this. And first, what I'd like to do is I want to recognize some of the people from Dearborn Heights, some of my staff. Director Vanderplow from the PD. Chief Brogan from the Fire Department. My Chief of Staff, Mariana Hernandez. And also Ali Deep, he's the city engineer. And we forgot to recognize one of the youngest school board member, Nadia Nasser. She's the D7 school board member. And also, I know Jackie introduced John Zadigian somewhere in here. He's got the pink jacket. There he goes. And also, we have our emergency manager, Bob Anker. Oh, there he goes. He's taking pictures. He's got multitask. As you can see in Dearborn Heights, we really work our people. So everybody has multi-jobs. But again, thank you so much for being here today. And some of the things in Dearborn Heights, it's been also challenging, and especially after we had a really bad flood. So we're in between the creek, Ecorse Creek, and also the Rouge River. So the last year's flood, it was pretty devastating. A few thousand homes that were affected, from the flood. So right now, we're actually talking to the county. There's potentially good news. We don't want to say it yet, because it really hasn't been announced yet. Trying to get a huge amount of money for the creek, and it does affect 9 communities, not just Dearborn Heights. So I think it's going to be announced in March, or they're going to put on an agenda for the commissioners to vote on. And thanks to the leadership of Warren Evans from the county, Warren County Executive, also Asad Turfi, he's been helping us with that. But in addition, we have some of the, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, also Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. They've been really helping us, from day one, from when we got the flood, they were on the ground walking door to door, talking to residents. So it was pretty devastating, to be on the ground. And for me, I was just a few months in office. I was appointed the first year. And just to be in there, I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? What do I do? So I had to put my Marine hat and just get on boots on the ground, try to do things, try to see what my residents need. So it's been challenging, but we have great staff. So some of the stuff that we're doing, we have, I brought in a lot of things in-house. So I brought in a city engineer. Before, in the past, we subcontracted everything out. So our city engineer, Mr. Deeb, has been really helping out, working on the CSO projects. And also, I'm going to refer back and forth, so we had the Ecorse Creek issue. We actually, first time in history, we were able to get a drone professionally, fly it over the Ecorse Creek from Inkster down to Southfield. So we pinpointed every obstacle where the issues are at Ecorse Creek. So we're shovel ready, so when the county or the state or federal gives us the money for the Ecorse Creek, we know which areas to tackle. Also, we had, some of these things, I'm going to talk about some of the challenging things. We had, ordinance. We have, I brought in, all my staff is pretty much new, all my leadership, and they're really working hard. I get great leadership, and one of my motto is first, world class. And I think every director or chiefs, they know that's my objectives. I want to be a world-class city. I want to have a world-class police department, world-class ordinance, world-class engineering service. So that's what I'm shooting for. This is something I learned in the last several companies I worked for, Boeing, Ford, and also in the Marine Corps. They always strive for that. So this is something, sorry guys, but I really want to propel our city forward, and I've been saying that from day one. So we did a sweep this year, last year, and that's the first time that's been done since 2016. Went to door to door with our ordinance department, just to take care of blight issues, abandoned cars. And this year, the ordinance department and police will be partnering to do the same this year, just to make sure we get our city back on track, especially with blight, some of the blight concerns that we get from a lot of residents. With that, we also have first year, and thanks to Mayor Hamoud, when we went to IT department, we actually had our IT. Sorry, I don't mean to throw you under the bus, but I have to say this. But they were doing our IT service, and well, I want to thank him actually, because the budget went from this amount to like this amount. I'm like, I can't afford Dearborn anymore. So I brought in the IT department in-house. So again, this is the first time ever the city of Dearborn Heights was able to get an IT department. So we created an IT department. We have an IT director that he's trying to get us back on track, trying to get us into the 21st, maybe, century. So I know one of the most favorite things that was mentioned by one of the council members, it's like, oh, okay, so now we're going to be college level, with our computer and the IT director, because actually we got to try to get to high school first. And but we are getting there. We got Microsoft 365 just last few weeks, and which our IT director is really working diligently, going through each department, try to make sure that we upgrade all our equipment. We have our dispatch. We do have our dispatch still, and we are actually working hard trying to upgrade dispatch. I know they had a team up there last month or so, and they're trying to get everything taken care of. So that's something that council voted on, try to keep dispatch in-house. So we still have our own dispatch in Dearborn Heights. And so we have a lot of great things happening, with one of the first things that I wanted to do is a lot of businesses. They wanted to do business in Dearborn Heights, but it was, most of you already know, it was pretty hard to do business in Dearborn Heights. There was a lot of red tape, a lot of obstacles. One of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to tear down, any obstacle for any business that wants to come in and do business in Dearborn Heights. And one of the first things I told everybody in the city, all the employees, I have an open door policy, and I have zero tolerance, for any harassments, any bullying, and anything like that. So if anybody has an issue, my door is always open. If it's closed, I'm in a meeting, but if it's open, people feel free to come in. If they can tell me the concerns, and I tell you, that really helped a lot, because it kind of put transparency, accountability into a lot of the people that worked in the city. Now they know they can come to my office if there's any issues and concerns. So my door is like, you walk into the city hall, first door to your left is my office. So they come right in, and I see it's really nice, see a lot of residents come in, good or bad. I welcome everybody. So I'm getting a lot of feedbacks from people that come in, whatever concerns they have. A lot of businesses, they had issues, with, permitting and, or, taking a long time to open a business in Dearborn Heights. But just within the last 2 years, it's actually, I did a 180. A lot of business say it's really great now doing business in Dearborn Heights. Now they can just come straight to me or straight to the director, the building director, or Mr. Deeb, the city engineer, and just they have people on the ground. They can actually go in and help them try to help their architects or their designers trying to figure out ways to propel or just move forward and just so they can open up their businesses. So that's great. And I'm also, I created a business commission, and we're going to be meeting here in the next couple of weeks or so, and we're going to talk about DDA. In the city of Dearborn Heights, there's nothing. There's no like downtown Dearborn Heights. There's no like DDA. So we have a couple ideas, and hopefully next Tales of Two City we'll announce them. We'll be forward with a lot of the things that we're working on. But one of the biggest projects that I'm going to be working on is the Van Born. Van Born has been neglected for years, and for the last year and a half or so, there was a company that was actually spearheading ordinance for both Taylor and Dearborn Heights. So they're looking at everything on Van Born from Southfield down to Inkster, because you get Taylor on one side, Dearborn Heights on the other side. So we created one ordinance for both cities. And so any business that wants to open up in the area, they have to follow the ordinance. So businesses can be not look alike, but they'll have like one standard. And actually, one of the business, I want to give kudos to one of the business owners, actually bought a gas station, and he built like a really nice gas station on Telegraph and Van Born. So he was told like, hey, you know what, we have these ordinance coming up, even though he wasn't obligated to do something, but he's like, you know what, I want to be forward, and I want to just do something that is not out there yet. So he went beyond the ordinance, and he did a really nice aesthetic outside his business, the gas station. His name is Hash Assam Baidoon. He also owns Bellagio in Dearborn Heights. So you can see he likes to take care of the aesthetics and do things. So he did, it was amazing. And I think he's doing the same. There's a business across the street. It used to be, I think, Walgreen, or there's a Rite Aid. Thanks to council chair. He knows real estate. He knows every corner of the city. So he actually bought that, and he's doing the same thing for Taylor. So with that, I know there's a lot of stuff that we're working on in the city where all of us are hands-on, where most of us are on the ground, trying to do, great things for the residents. And one of the biggest things in my police department, again, I went world-class police department. I brought in the Director Vanderplow. He retired from ATF. He was the SAC for ATF. And also we have another director. He's in charge of investigation with PD. Also brought in patrol director, and his name is Director Swope. He came in from Westland. So just to show you, we're very serious on getting our city, propel our city forward, and we're going to do everything possible to make that happen. So I welcome anybody coming to Dearborn Heights. Stop by, say hello, whatever you guys need. Our door's always open. Thank you.
Okay, so both of my mayors, don't sit down yet unless you'd like a cup of coffee. Both of our mayors are going to join us on stage, and we have 4 handheld mics. Christian and I are going to work the room and take questions from the audience. And really, you can raise your hands. We will bring the mic over to you, and you can direct your questions to both mayors or to either. And they play off each other quite well together. So thanks for being here. Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
We're friendly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like this guy.
That's okay. And these are live.
So,
Okay.
is this on? Okay,
This
great.
is live.
As they're passing out, getting ready, I'll drop a joke while I'm here. I think Mayor Bazzi said if you're, passing through Dearborn Heights, spend your dollars. We don't mind that. Just make sure you're moving back to the city of Dearborn when you finish. That's all we kindly request. But
Well, next year we're doing it in Dearborn Heights. So money this year, spend in Dearborn Heights next year.
Do we have any questions?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, go right ahead.
Good morning, Gary Hunter, the owner of the Shot News. As a black man being invited to Dearborn for Dearborn Heights and Dearborn, what are we doing to make black men feel safe again in Dearborn or Dearborn Heights? And is the officer sensitive training still inactive? Because the only time we really hear about Dearborn outside of Dearborn is a racist overtone, and we know the friendly part of you, but where is the sensitive part of you?
That's a great question.
And I also need ads from both of y'all for my newspaper. If you don't mind being in a black newspaper.
Could have opened up with that one. It's a great question. So I'll give you some of the things that we've actually been working on. Coming in, I can tell you that there were some hiring policies that we changed to try to draw more diversity into our police department. There were 3 policies in specific that we did away with. One was, we had like a no beard policy. So we now permit beards, and as long as they're well maintained. We had a no tattoo policy. We eliminated that. We also had a hair must be in a bun policy, which is like an anti-black woman policy. So we did away with that. And what we've seen with the police recruits we've been able to bring in, we've had much more diverse police recruits because we're also intentionally trying to increase the diversity of our police department. That's one. Secondly, if we look at the last good year of data in 2019, if we look at the citations issued throughout the city of Dearborn, roughly 40% of all citations issued were actually issued to black and African American drivers. Yet if you look at the city of Dearborn's population, it's roughly 3% black, and the day population of the city of Dearborn is about 23% black. The reason for this is there was a large emphasis on non-moving violations in the years prior to my administration, meaning things like dangling ornaments, expired license plates. And the thought process then was, if we pull over 100 cars, we might find 1 gun. But in that process of getting 1 gun off the street, you disenfranchise 99 people, the majority of which who happen to be black and African American drivers. So we did away with that policy, and what we did was we actually shifted towards focusing on moving violations impacting immediate public health, speeding, reckless driving, crossing a red light, or crossing a stop sign. And what we saw in 2022, rather than 40% of all citations issued to black and African American drivers, it cut in half down to 21%, which actually matches the day-to-day population we have in the city of Dearborn, all because we started policing the right things and taking out that bias that would have otherwise been there. There's no bias when you watch somebody cross a red light or cross a stop sign or speeding. You actually have to show justification. You use the laser gun to catch how fast they were going. So those are some of the progress that we've already made, and we're proud of it. We know that even if the data says that we're policing equitably, we still have a message that we have to send to our neighbors. And so Dearborn has the longest border with the city of Detroit. And so for the first time in history in 2022, we held a joint city block party along Tireman. And so we brought together residents from Detroit and Dearborn to come together and celebrate with one another about the issues that both sides of, that residents in both communities are facing, but also to come together for good food, for good music, and really to celebrate one another, to get to know one another. So that was the first joint block party in the history of Dearborn, Detroit, which we're extremely proud of, and that's something that we're going to continue into today. And we have hopefully a lot more surprises to come along Warren Avenue as it pertains to Dearborn and Detroit. But we're trying to take one step at a time. And then we want to communicate this because Dearborn is a welcoming place. And we want to make sure that everybody who comes to the city of Dearborn is treated with the utmost respect.
So, can you guys hear me? I don't know if this thing is on. But we're actually... I was mentioning earlier, the second day on the job, the first day took me a minute to get my bearings in the city hall. But the second day on the job, we had an all-hands meeting, all the directors, the chiefs, and we talked about my vision for the city. And one of the biggest things, growing up also like Middle Eastern, Arab American, some of the stuff I experienced growing up. The first thing I said, I have zero tolerance. And we actually, I have that in writing and also passed on to all the directors in the city. And I'm very serious about that. Zero tolerance. There's no ifs and buts about it. Everybody knows about it. So with our police department, we had our police chief had contact with this entity called Crytek. They're out of D.C. They came in a couple months back, and they did an audit on our police department. They were talking to different police officers. We invited some residents, came into this, to the police station. They talked about some of the concerns, and they put pillars, some of the things that they want instituted in the city of Dearborn Heights. And one of the things, we haven't talked about that with our mayor. We need their help here in the next couple months. Our chief wants to have an all-hands-on-deck training with the police department. So that means every police officer, dispatcher, everybody has to go to training. We're trying to figure out if we can do that in one day. So that way, you're not set, it's got to be all hands, mandatory training. And this is something that was brought forward with a lot of things that we learned in the last several years, and also what Crytek came up with. And that's one of the things that we're shooting for, try to do an all-hands training, and with diversity training, bias training. So everything's going to be done in one day. We've done training in the past, since I've been a mayor. We had one training already with all hands, every police officer. But now we're going to put everybody in one room. We're going to go through the same thing. And we had several trainers, came in, MCO certified already in the last year. But this year we're going to do, like I said, everybody's going to be included. From an officer all the way up to the chief will be in the training, and also dispatchers.
Okay.
But thanks for that question.
Yeah, great question. We have one right back here, Chastity.
Hi, I'm Chastity Townsend, Executive Director of the Dearborn Education Foundation, but I am a resident of Dearborn Heights.
Yay.
So Mayor Bazzi, these two questions are for you. One is, how often is ordinance out on trash days and snow days? Because I see a lot of cars in my end of the neighborhood that don't have any tickets, and I feel that that's a moneymaker for the city.
Is that two questions?
That's
or
one. I'll let you go with that one first.
So one of the challenging things, as I mentioned earlier, about the blight, some of the blight issues we had in Dearborn Heights. But there's another concern, I didn't actually talk about that one, is a lot of our ordinance officers are in court. So like the other day, you were talking about, there was 4 ordinance officers waiting in court for tickets. So we are issuing a lot of tickets, but the biggest issue is the ordinance officers are in court waiting for their tickets to be processed. And I'm sorry I didn't introduce Mr. Farina. Is he here? Roger Farina? Oh. So Roger Farina, also, he's our first attorney. Is he? I'm sorry, there's a light in my face. I don't know if he's here. Oh, he left? Okay. So he came in, he's got a lot of experience. He's an attorney, obviously, but he's our new city attorney, first city attorney in-house. So he's full-time attorney. So he's going through everything, all from A through Z. We're going through all our ordinances. We have to revamp all our ordinances. Our ordinances are obsolete, some of them from 1963. So some of the stuff that when I came into office, Mariana and I, we went through, there were some documents like 67 in office. And it's ridiculous. We have to update. That's some of the stuff that I was talking about earlier. We have to get into the 21st century. We're looking at every ordinance. We're looking at every possibility to get more officers on the road, especially the ordinance officers. And before, they say the same thing. They want to be on the road. They want to do work. But, they're spending half a day in court, 4 or 5 hours sometimes. It's because they have to wait for the judge, or they have to wait for something from the docket to come up. So now, actually, our city attorney came up with a new process. These guys are going to be on the road, and they're going to be doing work. If they need them in court, so when the case comes up, all they need is like 10 to 15 minutes to be in court. So they're going to be doing work, and when something comes up, they have to be in court. Then we call them up, we dispatch them. Hey, your case is coming up. You need to be there for the ticket. But we are issuing a lot of tickets. This is probably the most amount of tickets that are issued right now than they have in the last several years. And this is something that I monitor, and because I don't want blight in my neighborhood or any neighborhood in a city. So, like I said, I'm on that run. I go from east to west, north to south. I see what's going on, and I take things very personal. If I see something doesn't look right, it's like my fault. So I am working on it. The PD, police department's also working on it, try to come up with a process that we can get both ordinance and the police officers to work together to take care of the blight issues, and also snow days or garbage days to get people off the street.
Okay, thank you. My second question has to do with making improvements to your homes and permitting. I've just recently gone through that process due to the previous owner adding on an extension to the porch that was done improperly, which I assume was not permitted and done properly because there's no record of it in the city's file. So in going through the process and doing it myself and having a company, a reputable company that's bonded and insured and pulled the correct permits, how long does it take for that information to reflect in the, where you go to look for your property taxes and your water bill?
Yeah.
How long does it take for all of that information to be uploaded?
Well, this is something we're working on right now. We have a part-time person that was supposed to help us get all the permits and everything uploaded. We are working on a process right now, try to make sure that anything, try to go online. We had this conversation earlier today. I was in Morocco a month and a half ago. So something that I seen over there, I really like to implement, bring here to my city, is the way they do permitting, and it was just amazing. So I'm going to try to get whatever software they have over there, try to see if we can bring it here to my city. And everything, obviously, it's online. And basically what it does, I've seen it in the company I work for, Boeing, like I mentioned, and also Ford. You do something, once you do it, like a process, like say, for example, you apply for a permit, it's online. Then it goes to, like, say, somebody for plumbing. So it goes to that person's queue. He signs off on it. They're done with it, or tells what the person is doing. So you can go to, like, some BSNA software. That's what you're talking about. So you can go to you can go and you can see exactly where we're at. We're working on it. It's very challenging right now, but we're working on a process. Hopefully we'll have something by next Tale of Sioux City and Dearborn Heights. Thank you.
And my heir, Chastity, is a past board member as well. Thank you very much for your service. And here we go.
Hopefully this one's for you, Mayor.
Mayor Hammoud, good morning. I have a quick question. I'm a Dearborn resident. I also work in the city of Dearborn, Sloss Park, Snow Hill area, and we've been dealing with a lot of construction in that area with the new Fordland stuff. So I'm wondering when we will see that project completed, and if you have specific plans for the quality of life for the neighborhoods for Dearborn residents, and if those will be inclusive for people and accessible to people with disabilities.
Thank you so much for that question. As it pertains to Ford's timeline, I think I'd lean on them for the timeline, but in my conversations with Mr. Bill Ford or with Ford Land, I think you're largely looking at like 2027, 2028, really for that construction to be completed. And if you drive along Michigan Avenue, you can kind of see it in the backdrop on Oakwood. It's going to be a beautiful campus. We're excited for that investment here in the city of Dearborn. With construction, timelines change. That's our best estimate at this point that we've received as a city. And so, the sooner the better for all of us. I think for those who have businesses along Michigan Avenue in downtown West Dearborn, you might have seen an influx of patrons on Thursdays, because we know that, for example, a lot of employees have returned to Wagner on Thursdays, at least to begin. And I think there's going to be some flex scheduling options going from there. So we're seeing an influx of employees also coming back. As it pertains to quality of life, yes, we actually have a major parks announcement we're going to make in March. I see Sue here from the Times-Herald, and so I'm always like, I want to do my press conference to make the big announcement before Sue always beats me to the punch. But what we were able to do is we took some ARPA dollars at the city. We got a match from Wayne County. We took that to the state of Michigan, got some more dollars, and utilizing some water and sewer dollars. And what we're doing is we're actually investing in the park system across the whole city of Dearborn, including Camp Dearborn. And what you'll see is a lot of inclusive playscapes that we'll be bringing for the first time, making sure we have accessible playscapes, not only in one park, but in several parks across the whole city, to make sure that our parks are open and welcoming to all of our residents, regardless of the types of needs that they may have. So we're super excited for that. Look forward for that announcement in March, and construction will break ground this summer in a lot of the parks across the city.
Okay, Christian and I are in the room. We do have time if we're going to get everybody, we have more questions. There we go. Christian, you have longer legs. I'll let you go.
Good morning. I'm Dearborn City Council President Pro Tem Leslie Herrick, and a question for Mayor Hammoud. Mayor Bazey talked about the IT department in Dearborn Heights. Could you tell us what's happening with IT and technology in Dearborn, please?
Sorry for bringing that up.
It's a setup question, actually. The city of Dearborn, we just moved a contract. We're actually we're switching over to Google. And what we're trying to do in the city of Dearborn is right now, essentially, we're a 9 to 5 point of service. You got to come to the city of Dearborn between 9 and 5. You got to walk in through our administrative center to reach some sort of help. What we're going to undergo over the next 18 months is we're going to transform. We'll now become a 24/7, 7-day-a-week operation with a lot of the services being offered online. So we are also migrating most of our servers to the cloud, which will help improve the cybersecurity for the city of Dearborn, but also decrease costs over time. And we're utilizing ARPA dollars to make this transformative process become a reality. I mean, so everything from permitting, licensing, to the business liaison application tools that we're going to create, so that economic development is not only the department where you come to try to get licensed or permitted, but now we have liaisons that will come to your business on a given Thursday and say, hey, we see that you had a dip in the foot traffic that you typically exhibit on this day based on the technology and the programming that we have that Google built for us. What can we do to try to make sure that you're seeing an influx of employees coming in or patrons patronizing your shop? When we talk about Restaurant Week, which is coming up in the city of Dearborn, we also want to be able to track who's actually coming to our businesses. Was Restaurant Week successful? What were the successful mechanisms that we used for outreach, for media outreach and such? So Google will be undergoing that transformation. One of the biggest things is we're actually leaving Microsoft Outlook and such, and we're switching over to the Google Workplace. And so what we found was in order to collaborate right now on a document, and it sounds so simple, right? You save your Microsoft Word document, you send it via email, they do their edits, they send it back to you, when we just know that the Google Workspace exists. And so you can just have a Google Doc, everybody can type in it, it decreases the clutter, decreases the number of emails that you have, also creating the chat opportunities in the virtual workplace. And especially now in the city of Dearborn, because in our most recent labor contracts, we actually approved a 3-2 flex schedule. So what that means is for all employees that are able to, with the exclusion of like police, fire, and DPW, we now permit a 3-2 in the workplace. And so you can have 2 days at home with supervisor approval and 3 days in the office, because we also know that in the public sector, we have to compete with the private sector. So oftentimes, especially where you have childcare shortages and things of that nature, we have to be able to compete and be nimble. And so we created this new work environment. Now we're trying to access the tools to make sure this work environment is successful. And lastly, I'll talk about our call center and the transformation that will undergo with Google. Right now, we've already consolidated all of our calls. You can call 943-2150. That is our universal call center. You call and we try to get you an answer to your problem within 5 minutes. If not, we'll issue a ticket. The future of this is virtual assistants that you can text back and forth with or chat back and forth with on our website, which will also be totally redesigned and redone by Google, so we'll have a new website. But also get to the point where we become a 311. And so in a lot of major municipalities that have kind of evolved, more than Dearborn has, you just call 311 anywhere within the city, and you reach somebody at the call center who can assist you with a non-emergent issue. And so that's our goal. We already centralized it to 943-2150. The next step is to get the tools and technology we need to track all of the data that's coming in on the types of issues, and then we can slap on that 311 number once we purchase it and become a universal 311 one-stop shop. So we're excited for this transformation. Thank you, Councilwoman. It will take anywhere from 6 months for the first rollouts all the way to 18 months between the website redesign, development, and really what's most difficult about a website is all the substance of the website. So you can build the framework of a website, but coming up with that content is fairly difficult. If you've ever been to the City of Dearborn website page, it's not the most advanced, it's not the nicest, it's very difficult to find information. And so what we want is information to become readily available, because it's not helpful if we have helpful information on a website that you can't get a hold of. And so what we're also trying to create is a portal similar to some other websites where you log in, you type in what your demographics are as a resident. You know, this type of income, here's where I live, and you can click search, and all the resources that are available to you then just show up and become available to you. And so we're super excited for this transformation, and it'll commence. We just approved it in council last council meeting, and it commences in March. So we're super excited.
Okay, great. We have 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap up, because we're still about 7 minutes ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
So, Tim?
Thank you, Mayors. Tim Schramm, Hal Peterson Funeral Home. So for each mayor, just real quick update. Mayor Hammoud, an update on the Dearborn Hills Golf Course you had mentioned earlier. It was going to open this year. What's that going to look like? And then Mayor Bazzi, as a TIFA board member for the city of Taylor, just an update on the Van Born Road Corridor project.
Okay, so on Van Born Corridor, actually, so we have both city council from Taylor and Dearborn Heights have to approve the ordinance. So it did come in front of our planning commission. They made some suggestions. It went back, so they got to review those. I need to check with Taylor to see where they're at in that process. But I know once our planning commission blessed it, then it goes in front of our city council for them to approve it or bless it, also vote on it, then it becomes the ordinance. But I can check with Mayor Woolley next day or so, find out where they're at in that process, and I'll get back with you. I thought you were going to ask about my golf course. I mean, the Dearborn Heights golf course. But why is that just Dearborn golf course, not there?
You can
Dearborn
speak to
Heights?
Warren Valley if you like. So Dearborn Hills Golf Course, it's actually becoming a disc golf. No, I'm joking. For those who were at that meeting, they know how deep-seated that joke is. Dearborn Hills Golf Course. So last year, we had it closed. It was devastated by the floods. I am not a golfer. I can't tell you what a green is. I can't tell you what a fairway is. I just know these terms because my team tells me our greens are brown, our fairways are brown, everything is dead. And so we've reseeded a lot of the fairways and a lot of the greens. And what we're doing this year is, like I said earlier, we have 49 log jams across the Rouge. The work to take out those log jams will commence this spring. The pocket of funds that's coming from is actually the same pocket of funds that we have for these major parks investments. That's where we talk about some of the use of these water and sewer dollars that we're able to use for these efforts. We actually took that out of Grand Rapids. We visited Grand Rapids. They actually have bioswales and rain gardens in just about every single park feature across the city. And they use their water and sewer dollars to do it, because as long as you're retaining or capturing water for some capacity, it qualifies as an expense. And so we thought that was very interesting and modeled that after them. What we're doing this year is the RFP will actually go out in this next week for the banquet hall. We actually are hoping to bring in a restaurant, a new restaurant into the banquet facility. We think that can be a beautiful 7-day-a-week restaurant in addition to the banquet facility itself, so that even when golfing season is over, you still have a beautiful restaurant along the golf course that will hopefully bring some new amenities to the area. We're also exploring what new events can happen at the golf course. What we saw this year when we closed was a lot of high schools actually came through and did their cross-country meets or 5Ks through the golf course itself. And that actually is a new way of generating revenue. One of the other struggles, in addition to the flooding, was the revenue that Dearborn Hills did not generate. It lost between $300,000 to $400,000 per year, lost over $2 million in the last 7 years. And I'm trying to make sure that everything tries to run at no subsidy to the taxpayers. That's our goal, is trying to get it to zero. And so we think with a beautiful restaurant and banquet center, that can actually help subsidize some of the golfing. I'm not sure where the golfing boom is going post-COVID. We saw it actually climb during COVID. Mystic Creek, which is our golf course over at Camp Dearborn, has actually now been operating in the black for 2 years consecutively, so we're very proud of that. But we want to make sure that continues and that trend continues. So expect a 9-hole pilot golf course to open up this year. And so if anybody wants to do a league or run a full 18 holes, you'll just do the course twice. That's where we are, because once the log jam removal is commissioned, you're also going to see some damage happening along the banks of the Rouge throughout the golf course, because it's a fairly labor-intensive process. It's a very dirty process, but we're really excited for that to happen and to bring longevity to Dearborn Hills. What we saw already with some of the log jam removals we did last year, almost no flooding occurred this year at the golf course whatsoever, because we're able to do about $30,000 worth of log jam removal. It dropped the water levels about 2 feet. And so we think there's a lot more to go, but the residents should be excited for what's to come. We've been including them in this whole process, which is most important, which is why when we threw out every single idea, including disc golf, although they were overwhelmingly excited, I think Jim Thorpe is here somewhere, they were all extremely excited for this to come. We ultimately said, let's do away with it, because it wasn't accepted by all.
Okay, we have two. I've been promised we have 2 softball questions for both of you. So we'll start here. Matt.
Thank you, Mayors. It's Matt Allen from Priority Waste. I want to thank both of you for expressing so much courage in your leadership to be transformative in both of your cities. Our company is very transformative in that way as well, trying to incorporate technology and so on to better serve residents. The message that you gave earlier in the program regarding the transformation of the police departments for African Americans and so on and so forth, it only lends more credence to what you guys are doing as leaders. You shared earlier this week at a different program what's going on in Lansing and how that's going to affect both cities. There's a transformative leadership taking place there, and a lot of it is right here in Dearborn, Dearborn Heights, representation from our area for the entire state. Can you speak to that transformation and leadership in Lansing and how that's going to affect both of our communities?
Yeah, I'll take that one as the former legislator. It's an interesting time in Lansing. That's the best way to put it. You know, for 5 years, I worked on my gavel hand. When you get in the majority, they give you a gavel. You get to run a meeting. Unfortunately, I never got to use my gavel hand. I left, and they said, oh, now you can get majority. And so you see Democrats have the trifecta in all 3 chambers, which is the first time in I don't know how many decades. I mean, the Senate has been held by Republicans since 1983, and so it's the first time that that has flipped. And we largely saw this change because of nonpartisan redistricting maps that occurred across the state of Michigan. What's great is that the majority is actually only by 1 seat in both chambers. So that means you actually have to have strong bipartisanship to get just about anything done, which is always the kind of best way to have a government come together. You need that bipartisanship to move things through. What you're seeing is the governor got to work with Speaker Tate and Senate Majority Leader Brinks. Right away, they have a large supplemental that's moving. You're going to see the repeal of the pension tax coming through. You're going to see the expansion of the earned income tax credit. And you're also going to see, I think, inflation checks that are talking around $180 as the first major budget that's coming through and the quickest timeline. And so for a lot of pensioners, for a lot of union folk, this is very big because the pension tax came in a little over a decade ago under then Governor Snyder, as well as a decrease of the earned income tax credit. So you're talking about thousands of dollars back into the pockets of working families all across the state of Michigan. From a city perspective, what's most interesting for us is I think we have a lot of pro-mayor legislators right now in Lansing. So a lot of the dollars that we receive are through revenue sharing. And so I know there's talks right now about, 1, protecting the revenue sharing that comes down to municipalities, 2, increasing those levels so that we have more dollars, because I think mayors are closest to the problems. Therefore, we know what the solutions should be and that co-governance model with our residents. And so that's what I think I'm most excited for, is really that increase in revenue sharing for us to tackle some of the issues that have gone under the radar for quite some time. And third, you're seeing a large influx of infrastructure dollars coming in from the federal government to the state, which means a lot of infrastructure is going to get done. I think last year was orange cone season more than we've ever seen it before. Just about every major road was under construction. It sucked at the time. I can't tell you, as mayor though, I am so happy because the number of pothole complaints we've been getting are like at the bottom. It's not even a talk right now on social media. I don't want to jinx myself. There are some potholes that our team quickly got to, but pothole season, this time last year, it was a nightmare. We had an email address for potholes, potholes@dearborn.gov. You can email us about your pothole. This time, not many people are utilizing that email address, which means that I think a lot of work has gotten done and there's a lot more work to get done.
So I've noticed a huge difference in the last several years, with the leadership that we have right now. So just the last 2-3 weeks, we had our state rep, our new state rep, Aaron Burns, also Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, and we had Senator Santana come into my office, and they want to set up a meeting just to talk forward. This was not, for political reasons, after the election, obviously they weren't campaigning, but they came in, it's like, okay, now, after elections, we're on the ground, let's see what we can do together. So they're engaged, and also Senator Peters sent one of his staff last week. We met, talk about some of the issues, and I know Chief Brogan, I have to mention this, we're still working on your fire station. We have a fire station. We need a new fire station in Dearborn Heights, the main fire station, because bluntly saying, it was misbuilt back in '99. So we definitely need one, and I think everybody in the state of Michigan now knows about the fire station in Dearborn Heights. So we have everybody's working, everybody's on deck again. They're trying to help us, navigate through that. But I've seen a lot of everybody's really passionate, not just Dearborn Heights, but seeing like Dearborn, because some, Senator Santana, she's in both Dearborn Heights, also Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, but they are engaged, and they call our office all the time. It's like, hey, what can we do? What do you guys need from us? And they're trying to navigate us through some of the grants, see what we can do. So I'm very optimistic. I'm glad to have this team in place, and I'm looking forward to working with them.
The one thing I'll say is I see my fire chief now texting me about a new fire station because he's looking at his fire chief saying you're getting a new fire station. But we now, Dearborn previously also only had really one centralized state rep, which is the office I served in. Now we have 3 state reps and 1 state senator. 1 state rep and state senator overlaps between Dearborn Heights. And so we now have a caucus. So the beautiful thing of politics is numbers is king. And so when you're in Lansing, if you need votes, you can now come to the Dearborn Heights caucus, which is 4 or 5 members, and you can leverage those votes to try to bring home some wins for your municipality. And so it's one of the advantages that we're also seeing in a stronger collaboration between our cities.
Okay, I know everyone's on a time schedule, and I have a question in the corner, and I know Margaret Bloom would love to say a true softball.
I just want to thank both mayors, Hammoud and Bazzi, for all the energy you bring to our cities. This is wonderful. But I also want to say it's not all work and no play. And I want to give a big thank you to Mayor Hammoud, who has agreed to be our honorary chair with his wife of our 100th anniversary celebration of the Rotary Club of Dearborn. It's 100 years old this year. We're the oldest service organization in Dearborn. And we are going to have a spectacular event here in this gala, Lincoln Ballroom, and then into the Mayor Dido's Theater. And that is going to be on March 18th. It's something you won't want to miss. And it's going to be a benefit, a community thank you, to help with the city of Dearborn to renovate the auditorium of the Henry Ford Centennial Library. It's going to be a wonderful evening. We'll have the Henry Ford College big band performing here during a strolling dinner, and then we'll go into a concert at 7:30 with Thornetta Davis, Detroit's Queen of the Blues, and the Dennis Edwards Temptations Review. You won't want to miss it. Go to dearbornrotary.org, and again, thank you, Mayor Hammoud.
Thank you so much. Just a funny story. Sitting down with my mom, and we're 4 boys, and the youngest is a girl, my only sister. And she's like, what do you have happening on March 18th around 6:30? And I was like, I have the 100th anniversary for the Rotary Club. And she's like, well, I'm trying to plan her Islamic wedding and engagement on that day. I was like, that's great, as long as you do it before 6. So that's what I told my only sister about March 18th because of how important this event is. But we're super excited for it, and hopefully you'll all be in attendance on March 18th.
Super. And finally?
Good morning. My name is Sharia Ayers, and I'm a guest of Comcast, but I am here representing Black Leaders Detroit. And so I heard what you all said in regards to zero tolerance policy and more equitable policing practices. And I just wanted to, one, invite everybody in the room, but we have a bike ride for equity in May, in which we ride from Detroit to Mackinac City and then to the Mackinac Policy Conference. We don't bike across the water, though, you know. But anywho, so with that, we're looking for partners in equity. Like, we need people to ride their bikes, and we also need people to be volunteers. So I got on the mic to ask you all, are you all interested in being partners in equity, 1? And 2, if so, what are the next steps so we can see if there's some synergy between what you all have in mind for the goals of your cities and our organization?
Kudos to using this opportunity. What I'll say is, I don't know if I can bike from Detroit to Mackinac City. If you get like the Peloton version that I can look scenically through it, I'm more than happy. Would love to be an equity partner. If you'd email my office, and I'll give you that information before we conclude, we can talk about how I can be there in spirit and not necessarily on a bike itself, but happy to be part of it.
I thought he was going to challenge me to a race from here to Mackinac. I was like, I'll take it on. I love challenges. But if I do it, doctor, you'll be right behind me, right? And we got the fire department will be behind us in an ambulance. But I actually, I don't know. I need to get into shape to actually do that bike ride. But also, you can reach out to my office, see what we can do together.
And Council President Serini left, but we had a mayor's bike ride with DeGracio, the Chancellor of Dearborn. And Mike wasn't pedaling yet, his bike was moving. And I was like, Mike, what is this bike? He's like, it's a discrete electric bike. So he pedals when he feels like it, otherwise he's just propelled forward. So if you permit some of those, maybe then I can join, at least for the majority of the ride.
But one of the things I want to mention, I forgot to mention, I know Mr. Farina is in the back. So I know we talked about what he's doing for Dearborn Heights. One of the things I didn't mention, we're trying to bring a juvenile teen court to Dearborn Heights. We've never had it, and it's very exciting. We talked to all the superintendents in the city of Dearborn Heights, and everybody's like on board. So instead of sending the cases to Wayne County, and I know they have a backlog at Wayne County with juvenile teen courts, so we are going to bring it to Dearborn Heights. We were both Judge Plawecki and Judge Turfy are on board to bring it to Dearborn Heights. Thanks to Roger, Mr. Farina, for bringing it to Dearborn Heights. So this is very exciting. Never had it, and again, we have to make sure that our teens, our youth are taken care of. If there's any issue, we got to take care of it in-house instead of sending it, across the fence. So again, a lot of great things we're doing. Any problems, any issues that you have, any questions, I know some of you probably didn't get a chance to ask today. You can reach out to both of our offices. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Everyone, a big round of applause for both of our mayors. Don't leave yet. At this point, I just love to really introduce a Dearborn staple. You all probably know him, Hassan Bazi, currently working with Forward Cities in Detroit, traveling the nation. He's taking this year out to be our board chair. I know Brent Mikulski said, gee, who thought I'd be board chair during COVID in 2020? What did I sign up for? And so if you could just say a few words for us.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I was looking at the time, and Jackie really knows how to keep us on schedule. So thank you all for joining us this morning. And as the gentleman just said, we are truly all one family. I mean, Dearborn and Dearborn Heights, not only geographically connected, but relationally connected. Families move across both cities, businesses, we shop in both cities, we drive through both cities. So what happens in one city truly impacts the other and impacts our region. So with that, I want to thank Jackie and her team for the event. I mean, this is truly an awesome way to kick off the year and some truly great things to come on the calendar. I want to thank both our mayors for joining us this morning, our sponsors, and most importantly, I want to thank all of you for getting up early this morning and spending your morning with us. We have the room for a bit longer, so as we conclude, feel free to mingle and take the opportunity that we're all together to catch up with folks. Again, thank you so much, and we'll see you at another event soon.